Hello, welcome back, everybody. My name is Pedro. I am your host. I am joined here with my co-host, Steven.
How's it going?
So today, Steven is back from his adventure. So what do you want to tell us about that, Steven?
Adventure indeed. I just spent a little over 2 weeks traveling abroad. I visited Thailand, Phuket, to be exact. And man, it was a wonderful experience.
Did you get sick over there?
I did not.
Did you get sick here?
I got sick when I got back.
Is it the cold air?
Yes.
Well, it's not going off.
No, actually, it was really hot over there. And we got caught in a couple of days of rain. And even then, with the rain pouring, it was still super hot.
Temperature?
Temperature-wise, humidity-wise.
No, I mean, how hot was it? Because you say hot, but we talking like 90s hot, or are we talking 110 hot?
No, it was still in the 90s. Upper to mid 90s.
Humidity?
Didn't check, but it was up there.
But it was humid.
Yeah, it was humid.
All right, so what was some memorable things you did there?
Oh, memorable. I mean, I got to train at some of the best camps in the world, doing Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. Met some pretty cool people from all over the world. That by itself was pretty cool. And I rode ATVs for the first time through the jungles of Thailand, which was crazy. Because at one point we just ran over a snake, just wild snake going through the path, and we're like, all right, we're doing this, let's do this. But yeah, that was pretty cool. It's just crazy out there, man.
Because when you said ATVs, when I think of ATVs, I think of the desert, especially in California when people go up to the beach areas or maybe even to the desert, and that's primarily where they ride ATVs. But through the jungle, as in you're like zigzagging through trees.
Yeah, I mean they do have like little pathways,
right?
Little dirt pathways, but it is a lot of zigzags and pretty hard turns, which made it a lot of fun.
So the path was similar to, when you go on YouTube and you're looking at GoPro footage, and sometimes they have people skydiving, sometimes they have people travel videos, and then other times when they have extreme sports, they have someone on a bike trail. And it's usually for the GoPro company, it's someone going down this huge mountain or this path, and sometimes they cut through a forest and there is a paved bicycle path that they go through.
Right.
Was that the ATV? But it's not bicycle, it's obviously a lot larger.
It's a lot wider, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was multi-purpose, I guess, these little roads that they had. Because little ATV park or part of the jungle that we were at was somewhat shared with the elephant sanctuary. So some of the paths were being used by elephants, where they do the elephant rides and all that stuff. But yeah, it was
elephant rides, as in they have some kind of basket or some kind of seating on the elephant's back where people can go on top and ride the elephants?
Yes.
What movie have I seen that in? That sounds really familiar. Besides Aladdin.
That's the first thing that popped into my head.
Aladdin. It wasn't Aladdin, right?
But I'm pretty sure it was in Aladdin.
So you mentioned the snakes and the elephants. What other wild animals are native to Thailand that you know of?
I saw a lot of pigs. Just
really?
Yeah, big fat pigs just roaming randomly.
That's not the answer I was expecting.
And then they have a lot of monkeys.
Okay, any specific kind?
I would not be able to tell you. Just little tiny monkeys. I saw them in two specific areas. The first time I saw them was when I went to the Phi Phi Islands. And there's a specific place you gotta take a kayak or a canoe or a boat to it. You take a boat if you're lazy, but you have to go around around part of the island to Monkey Beach,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just chilling.
Wait, so PP as in it's spelled P and P or like PI?
PHI.
Okay, and it's pronounced PP.
Yeah, I thought it was
weird.
Phi Phi.
Yeah, that's what I would think too.
That's how I was saying it, but no, the lady that we were booking our boat ride to the actual island, she kept saying pee pee. So we're like, all right, that's how we'll go with the flow. We'll pronounce it just like you guys.
Okay, so they called it, or maybe that's how they think we pronounce it. So they say PP, but it's actually Phi Phi. Because if you think about it, Phi Phi is very similar to Kiki. And who do we know that loves Kiki? That's right, Drake. We all know from that infamous song that Drake has some kind of connection to Kiki. And what if Drake was in a concert one time in Thailand, and when he was performing it there, he said Kiki, but the natives, they said, oh, he must be talking about Phi Phi. But he mispronounced it, and then they were trying to interpret it, and they somewhere along the line got mixed up, and now they call it Pee Pee. All because Drake performed there once. Fair?
That's a much cooler story. But yeah, I don't think they know who Drake is.
Okay, never mind.
Because being out there, I mean, we had Wi-Fi, so I had access to, my Netflix account, my HBO account. So I was somewhat able to keep up with some of my shows or movies that, when I had some downtime. But I mean, other than that, if you're native to Thailand or one of the neighboring countries, I think it's very difficult to get your hands on. It's very difficult to find a way to watch the newest and latest like shows or movies that are currently coming out.
Oh, that's true. Unless you have Wi-Fi, then it'll be difficult to access anything. Wait, so then when you went out to public areas, did they have Wi-Fi?
A lot of places didn't. The restaurants that we frequented did. But obviously they only gave us the password once we actually sat down and started ordering.
Right, I was about to say that. Okay.
But yeah, and there was like only some pubs or bars that actually had TVs that were actually showing some type of entertainment, but it was usually just soccer.
Okay. So I've heard that soccer is the nation's sport, where here in the US we enjoy football, baseball, basketball, and not to say that other countries don't, but when you go anywhere else in the world, the primary sport that everyone likes to watch and play is soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Or I should say football.
Football.
Okay, so then you mentioned the people. How were the people?
Very kind.
What did you think of them before you got there?
I really didn't have an opinion of them. I just thought, it'll be like any other place. Kind of, well, they just kind of tolerate us as tourists.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they were very kind.
Well, let's get right into it. We're talking about people. We're talking about Thailand. I've heard the rumors. You've heard the rumors. Our great nation has heard the rumors. How was the food?
I completely disregarded every single warning that anyone gave me. So prior to my trip there, everyone said, be careful, don't drink the tap water, don't eat their seafood, only go to well-established places because they'll prep and cook your food a lot better. Yeah, I disregarded all that. I ate anywhere and everywhere I could.
Mm-hmm.
It was fantastic.
I'm on board. I don't know about the whole tap water thing. I think I've always avoided tap water anywhere.
Yeah.
But the food I'm with.
No, the tap. Well, I mean, I didn't necessarily drink out of the tap water, but when you order your drinks, they do bring a cup with ice, and that ice is presumably from tap water.
Right.
So once it melts, it's just regular water. I would drink that. So that's what I mean by drinking the tap water. Obviously, I did go and buy, sealed water bottles and all that.
Right.
But no, it was fantastic.
You got to know the game. When you go out, you can't get water. You have to order a soda. Because, I would assume, too, that when I go out to a restaurant outside of the U.S., that the water, if it's not coming from a bottle, they're getting it from the tap. I would assume that, even if they're not. So that's when you order soda.
Yeah.
Soda or some other drink.
A bunch of soda. Their Coke tastes a little different. Not as sweet.
Huh. So it's more carbonated? More bitter? Huh. Was that good?
Didn't really make a difference to me. It was hot, so we're just like, hey, man. Soda that Coke always quenches thirst.
Wait, what do you mean it was hot outside?
Yeah, so, I mean, any type of liquid would be fantastic.
Huh. So then how was... From here in the U.S., I think a lot of people, when they think of Thai food, they think pad Thai or pad Sui. I mean, I know there's a lot of other dishes, but primarily when you're speaking to another person and they say, hey, I've had Thai food. And they go, really? What have you had? And then they go, pad Thai, pad Sui. That's what I've heard a lot. So I'm in the debate. How was it over there in the motherland?
Oh, I'm not really one to ask because prior to this, I've never really had Thai food.
Wait, you've never had it here?
I may have had it once, and even then, I don't think I really ate it because the time I did go to a restaurant, I wasn't hungry. So I really wasn't eating. I was just kind of there to hang out.
Okay.
So, I'm not really the person to ask.
Well, speaking about food, how were the lady boys? Let's get right into it. You thought I was going to ask it in the last one, but nope.
Oh, man. It's a real thing, man. It's a real thing. And it's very noticeable.
I've heard the rumors. People have heard the rumors. What is the man to women to ladyboy ratio?
There's a lot more ladyboys than women, I would have to say.
And what about this ratio? Men, women, put them in one. Compare that to ladyboys. What are we talking about here? Give me a percent. Or a fraction. Or something.
60-40.
Oof, that's a big...
And it can go either way, man. 60 men, 60 ladyboys. You just don't know. There's something that you just can't tell, man.
Wait, no. Oh, well, I get that ratio, but I meant if men and women were one category and ladyboys were another one.
Yeah, 60-40.
Oh, 60-40? Oh, okay.
Yeah, man, it's like they're yeah. I'm speechless at that.
Well, all right. What any other strange things that you saw there that you weren't expecting or that caught you off guard?
Not really. I mean, aside from the way they drive out there, that's about it.
What do you mean? Can you explain that more? Opposite roads, I'm assuming?
Yeah, they drive on the opposite side of the road, which is it's just so crazy to me.
Which to them would seem normal, because I think, does the whole world drive like that? Except us?
Only certain parts. Only certain parts, which it kind of makes no sense, because, like, we're the nation that created cars, so, like, why wouldn't you adapt to how we made them?
Okay, but from a car point, if I'm going to argue for them, when we drive here, when we're on the right side going wherever we're going, where's the driver's seat? In a car.
On our left.
All right, and we're driving on the right side. Now that doesn't make sense to me. What if we're driving on the left side and then the sidewalk is right on our left, and we're driving on the right side and then the sidewalk is right on our right?
It's literally the same thing, just inverted. The sidewalk would be on the opposite side.
When you're driving on the opposite side of the road?
Uh-huh.
But the seat's also on the other side.
Yeah, so if I'm in Thailand, I'm driving on the right hand side, but I'm driving on the left side. So no matter what, the sidewalk's going to be on the opposite side.
I need a visual. I got lost in that. I definitely need a visual.
Yeah, it's literally the same thing, just inverted.
I thought it was easier in those countries because when the driver's seat is on the other side, then you can just open the door and get out and step onto the sidewalk.
That would work if they drove on the same side that we drive on. One cool thing I did see though was an old school Chevy Chevelle in Thailand, and it was converted to right hand drive.
It
was like a 1970 Chevelle. It was super clean.
Wait, for most of the trip you were in the city?
No, I wouldn't call it the city. It was a lot more, I guess you call it the suburbs, more rural area.
When you were describing it earlier, it reminded me of Hawaii. I've never been to Hawaii, but just the way Hawaii set up where the city's in the center, and that's where, as you get towards the center, that's where all the rich people are, because all the flooding happens on the outskirts of the island. Is that how it was in Thailand?
You can make that connection, except there are really no cities in the middle. There's kind of planted all over the place. In the middle is more mountains than anything.
Okay.
But yeah, I can see how it can be compared to Hawaii. Like my first day there, I kind of compared it to Mexico.
How so?
It looks just like Mexico minus all the motorbikes, and the smell is just slightly different. It doesn't smell like how we would describe Mexico.
Wait, go on. What's the smell like? What do you mean by that? What's the smell of Mexico and what's the smell of Thailand? Now, and don't just say, "Oh, you know what it is." No. I do, but explain it.
Well, it's harder for me to explain since I've only been to Mexico maybe 2-3 times.
All right.
So I have a very limited
We'll do this. I'll explain Mexico because I go every year, and then you can explain Thailand.
Since I was just there, okay.
Right, and I guess I'll start. So when you say smell of Mexico, this is what I think you're trying to say, and I'm going to explain how I smell it. And let me give everyone a reference point. Here in the U.S., clean for the most part, unless you go to obviously to big cities where there's a lot of factories. Like I heard someplace in the San Fernando Valley, there's this Budweiser factory, and around that area, it smells like
hops.
Is that
that's
the beer? Oh, okay. But to be more specific, it smells like some kind of chemical smell. And when I say chemical, I mean like that bleach smell you get when you smell bleach. It has a very strong, I'm not even sure, strong, stinging smell. That's kind of what that smells like, but not as intense. And it's spread all around that factory. And there's certain parts of Los Angeles, specifically downtown, where it smells like sewer, trash, and you can even say feces. But then there's other parts where you go to that are more, where it's more open, where it just smells like, I don't want to say fresh air, but it doesn't have those same smells. It smells like nature, like a tree.
You have Ontario that smells like manure half the time.
Yeah, those are those large farming areas. Mm-hmm. So there's different places where they do different things. The manure smells like cow feces. In some parts of the city, it smells nice. When you get closer to the ocean, you get the beach smell, the smell of the fresh waves, the sand, and that mist that you get on your face. So then I would say, describing all those different scents of LA, I would say Mexico has all of those as well. Primarily where there's a bunch of farm animals in the outskirts of the city where the farms are, you get that manure smell. But the biggest difference from LA and Mexico is that in Mexico, there's not too many of those factories. So you really get that clean air, especially if you go to places near the beach or when you're in high elevations, then you really get that fresh air. Although you still have that manure smell. And when you go into the cities, you get that similar like feces, trash smell that you get in LA. You get that very similar smell, but it's also mixed in with, they have a lot of, what do they call that, where they sell meat outside? Butcheries? Meat, outdoor meat. Damn, what are they called? I'm not sure what the exact name for it is. They sell meat outside.
Yeah. Damn, I don't remember.
I'm not even sure if butchery is a word, but you get a lot of that. You get a lot of those smells when you get closer to those areas. And yeah, I would say that's, and food. It smells a lot like the food that they have there. Primarily, yeah, there's a lot of rice, a lot of beans, a lot of meats that are being cooked, and you get that those smells mixed in.
Okay, so Thailand, or Phuket to be exact, it smelled a lot like. Well, since I was in the more, I guess I stayed in two different places, so I'll describe both of them.
Mm-hmm.
The first part was a lot more, I guess you could say misty, since I was a lot closer to the beach.
Okay.
So kind of felt a lot more cool than
by the beach, so you got the ocean breeze.
You got the ocean breeze
and that mist from it.
You got that mist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say you could smell the salt, but it did smell a lot more fishy. There's a lot of fishing that goes on over there.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, so all right, there's a strong fish smell because they fish.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's then the second place we stayed at was a lot more country. In a sense, they did just have, their animals just roaming free and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't get like the manure smell or anything. Just a lot more, because we were a lot closer to the jungle, so it was a lot more. I guess you could go as far as saying you could smell all the plantation and everything.
Wait, what do you mean by plantation? I think you want to say
not as in crops, but like there's just an abundance of trees, of all these different type of green plants. And since it was wet half the time, just kind of, because in Mexico after it rains, like it just kind of, it's easier to like breathe in. At least that's how it was for me when I was there.
Right.
But somewhat the same thing. It was easier to breathe. Just didn't have that distinct smell that I remember in Mexico.
Which one?
What do you mean, which one?
What do you mean it had that distinct smell?
It didn't have the distinct smell that I remember from Mexico. Being in the second location, a lot closer to the jungle.
Okay. So you smelled a lot more of the trees and nature.
Yes.
Trees, leaves, flowers, plants. You got a lot more of that, I guess I would say, nature smell. The smell of all the flowers and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we get that here in LA too when it rains. I forgot. I don't remember the class exactly that I learned it, but at night, all the gases from the cars and the factories and all that carbon monoxide. I hope it's carbon monoxide. All of that goes up, and because we're in a valley, and the valley is like think of a circle that's cut in half, and then we're living in the bottom half. And you know how the bottom half of a circle is kind of like that?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the gases, it forms a little thin layer at the top. And when it rains, when the rain clouds come, the way that it was explained to me, and I'm not sure how, they said that that layer, I don't know if it gets pushed away or if it somehow evaporates, but it gets removed somehow. And when it gets removed, I don't know if you noticed, the day after it rains here in LA, if you look up at the sky, you don't see that white fog that you see. It's clear. You can clearly see the sky, and the sky looks extra blue. And you can breathe a lot easier that day. And then slowly as the day goes by, and the next day comes, you see that white layer form again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what you're trying to refer to. And yeah, I've noticed it here, Mexico, and well, not in Thailand, but here and over there.
You could have. You messed up. But damn, okay. So, with this episode, I think our viewers are going to notice we didn't give that our usual intro that we usually give.
All right, you are correct.
And I was actually hoping or waiting for it because I was gonna kind of go ahead and ask you a question on something that I read not too long ago, and it just kind of been stirring in my mind in this little pot that I guess I could call my mind. But it's what I read was storytelling is the legal art form of identity theft.
Hold on, let me repeat that. Storytelling is a legal art form of identity theft.
Yeah.
Okay. What about it?
I just thought about it. I was like, It's very interesting how she put both of those things together. Because if you really think about it, identity theft is you're stealing information to commit fraud. But if you're just telling a story, you're telling it something. You're telling information of somebody else, or yeah, and in most cases, you're saying information about somebody else to somebody else.
To be somebody else.
To be somebody else.
In identity theft specifically.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the stealing of information. But then with storytelling, it's... Have you ever heard someone say that every thought that you've had, there's another person out of 10 that's had that same thought? I don't know if it was out of 10, but out of 5 or 7.
I've never heard that.
I've heard that. I think I heard it in high school. Someone said that.
How true is it?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it was true. Because how are you going to measure that?
Yeah, right.
So, but I have heard it before that for every thought you had, someone else has had that same thought. And if we think about the 7 billion, or are we at 8 billion? The billions of people that we have on the planet. I know everyone likes to think they're creative, but it's hard not to say that someone else has had that same thought. And then with storytelling specifically, I bring that up to say that it's... When we look at movies or different art forms, we can see similarities to those stories. Like when we think of a crime drama or when we think of an action movie, are we committing identity theft every time? Or are we stealing that thought or idea when another action movie is made? If they're both action, like how much are we gonna say it was... What's the word that people like to use? Inspiration, right? Mm-hmm. People like to say that I use this idea for inspiration. I think it happens in the music industry when they sample music, right?
Yeah.
They sample music from previous people that have created a song, and they use the beat or whatever that was there. They get it cleared, and then they use it. Oftentimes they don't get it cleared, and they just use it, which happened with Lucid Dreams. Who's the artist that made that?
Juice WRLD.
Juice WRLD. So, do you know who Phil Collins is?
I've heard of him.
From what I read in, I don't know which article it was, Variety or Deadline, Juice WRLD had used one of Phil Collins' songs and he didn't get it cleared. Now you might say, that's such a popular song. Why didn't he get it cleared? I don't think he thought it was going to blow up. And I think a lot of people do that, and it gains traction, and then it wasn't cleared. But they didn't know. So at what point are you getting inspired, and is it stealing? Because when comedians tell jokes, you can tell when someone's stealing a joke when they say it either word by word or if they change one little aspect. Like if they have a joke about something about someone from a border and they use Mexican or Mexico, and they just switch it to someone from a border and Canadian. Is that stealing, or is that inspiration, or what are we gonna call that? Same joke, except the main character or whatever changes. So I don't know. What do you think about it? All you told me was, that's interesting. But give me a little bit more.
It is interesting because, like I said, identity theft is you're stealing the info to commit fraud.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're telling a story, I mean, where's the fraud being committed? I mean, you're kind of bringing that up now with music and or with different types of movies that have the same premise. Is it fraud?
Oh, see, well, you're trying to compare it to identity theft. I would say it's the stealing of an idea. Because
okay. You're right. That's different.
I think you're trying to combine information and identity fraud, and trying to compare it to storytelling and identity fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you can connect it, and I think it's a lot more clearly seen when you think of, instead of identity theft, think of it an idea. You're stealing an information in the form of an idea. And I've thought about it for screenwriting, because oftentimes there's something called a thorough line. And what that is when you have a script, it's a 1 or 2 sentence explanation of your script. So I'm going to make this completely up. Let's say I was telling a story about a dystopian world where the main character he has the ability to go through walls. And the beginning, he discovered he had a power. In the middle, he's trying to figure out where he got the power, trying to adjust to his power. He meets a couple friends. He meets a girl with the same ability. And at the end, something tragic happens. And there's a lot of things that are going on. And he's being challenged in a lot of different ways. So what the thorough line is a 1 or 2 sentence explanation of what that story is, of what that screenplay is. So then a lot of people like to tell their thorough lines to other people so they can get an idea of, do you think this would be a good story? And what if someone hears that and then they make their own story? Now, instead of that young boy who could, walk through walls?
Yeah.
Let's say now he's invisible. So the same things are happening, but now he's invisible. And he got that idea from that thorough line, from that 1 or 2 sentence explanation. Is that stealing? Or is that inspiration? Or what is that? The idea was taken and then transformed into something else.
When it comes to that, I think that would be somewhat of... Damn, that's a hard line to draw.
That's the problem.
Yeah, because before you told me that, I was thinking, okay, well, it's copying if you've already read the script and everything, and then you go and create one that's similar.
100%.
And then I was thinking, inspiration is just, a little seed that was implanted, and then you go off and make something that's your own without ever really reading or getting the full premise of what theirs is about. But if let's say I told you mine,
mm-hmm.
just if I told you mine and you went and wrote something that's yours, but it's just somewhat similar to mine, then yeah, that's still.
Was that inspiration? Was that stealing? It's a hard line to draw on whether you decide, no, I didn't necessarily copy or steal. I just used that as a form of inspiration or as a little thing that helped me build this.
I would say it would all be based on your intent, but I think everyone that did that would not want to be called someone that's stealing. So they would say, oh no, my intent, was inspiration.
And that's a hard thing to prove also in court.
Yeah.
How do you know what someone's intent is?
Damn.
And I got the idea from the third line from a book that I read called Save the Cat, where it's a famous screenwriter talking. And he brought up that same idea that you mentioned, where he would say, if you don't have the courage to tell someone else your thorough line, then you shouldn't be a screenwriter. You shouldn't be worried about someone stealing your idea because it's your idea. If you're confident in the script that you can write, tell them and get feedback. Because the more you tell people that 1 or 2 sentence, then you can get feedback. And oftentimes if it's your friends, they'll be like, oh, that's good. But I think if you tell them and you read their facial reactions, when you have a good idea, I think you'll see people light up. Like, oh, that's interesting. I never thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
Then then you can keep on tweaking it until you get a good one.
That's very true. That people light up when you have something, because I feel like that's happened to me when you've told me some stuff that you were thinking about, and I kind of was like, oh shoot, okay. That's
when I knew I had something, because I've told you things also, and you're like, oh, that's cool. Then I'm like, oh, okay, then.
Yeah.
And I need to work on it, or I need to change it.
Yeah. Huh. Okay, so what was the author's name, or the screenwriter's name in the book you were just talking about?
I don't remember. I know the book was called Save the Cat. Not Sinfield. It's I don't remember, but the book is called Save the Cat.
So he said, don't be scared. Just tell it to whoever, whenever.
Right. Tell it to whoever, so you can get feedback. And that's used from the book and what he said. Start with your throw line and then write your script. Because once you get that main idea down, and he also mentioned this is not like a guideline to what you should do. This isn't a step-by-step plan. This is more of a recommendation of what you should do, and you should find your own method. But he did mention that he personally uses, that he would tell people his ideas, thorough line, tell his 2 sentences to random people anywhere at Starbucks and see their reaction. And once they lit up, he knew he had a solid idea. And then he would write the script.
And real quick, when was this book written? Is it like old school, or is it somewhat in modern times?
2009. I think it's been revised a couple times. It might have been written earlier in 2004 or 5. But the version I got was the 2009 revision.
Okay. So this is kind of a little idea that popped into my head right now. If, let's say you're going through your thing, you're about to tell somebody that you also know is like a writer.
Okay.
And they may or may not have like a history of being accused of stealing stuff or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think at this point it doesn't really matter, but given in the time that we're at now, what if before you told your thorough line, that's what it's called, before you told it to that person, you brought out your phone and started recording yourself? Like, today's date is August 31st at this time, and I'm here with said other writer. And kind of like how back then, I think I read this, like during Shakespeare times, they used to mail themselves their script to kind of have like this timestamp on it of when it was written, so they can prove that they were the ones that wrote it or something like that. So kind of like that, but just with modern times. Like there's a video recording that you were the one that said, the specific idea in case they run off and write something else.
Okay, so you're talking more to have some kind of plan. So you have some kind of written or some kind of visual documentation to prove that you wrote this in this time. And the day that you're sharing it, you can share it to someone else to see what they might think of it. But regardless of them stealing it or not, you have written documentation of when you wrote it or when you're telling them this.
Yeah.
In the first situation, you said that it's already written in Shakespeare times, they would send themselves their plays. So let's say I already have a screenplay written out. You can actually publish it I believe it's the Writing Guild of America. And I think it's a $15 fee where you submit it. And then it gets, how should I say it? Not published, but it gets documented. That's your original piece of work.
Oh.
Copywritten?
Uh-huh.
I believe it's called copywritten. Right. So you pay a $15 fee. I think it was $15 because I just checked 3 weeks ago. And you can do it for novels as well. You submit the novel. And I'm not sure how you submit it. I haven't looked too far into it, but you pay a fee, you submit it, and then it's your original piece of work.
That's a lot more convenient than what I just suggested.
Right, but see, that's when it's already written. But if you're just trying to come up with an idea, then how do you prove that idea was yours? Mm-hmm. And you can't really prove it because nothing's written. It's just an idea. It's like when Uber was coming out. I remember seeing online a lot of people that would hate and say, I thought of the idea of Uber before, and they're just hating on it. And yes, although they thought of the idea, there was no action taken. So just because they had the idea, should they get compensated? If someone had the idea of Uber in 1999, and then when was Uber created? Like 2009, 2010?
I think so.
Later on, should the person that had that idea be compensated?
No. Well, I mean, it should be on whoever acted on it.
Right. And that's why when you have that 1 or 2 sentences and you're explaining it, should they get compensated if someone else writes their idea? Because you just said it depends on who acts on it. So this is where it gets kind of fishy. Should they? Because I know it's two different things. One is a company that you're starting and one is something that you're writing. Mm-hmm. But the premise is the idea. You have both of these individuals had an idea and someone else acted on it.
So I guess this would be a better comparison. Remember a couple episodes ago we were talking about Elon Musk and how somebody had tweeted at him an idea for like a Tesla powered windblower or
vacuum or windblower. I think it was for leaves, a leaf blower.
Yeah, a leaf blower.
Right. Remember that
for it to be quiet or whatever.
Right.
And then I don't know where like Tesla announces they're working on that, and everyone's like, "Oh, where's the credit?"
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, what do you mean? I thought about this a long time ago or something." Like just straight up gave the cold shoulder. Mm-hmm. I don't remember who actually tweeted him the idea. It was like an actor or something, but I think that's a lot better comparison. Because who really thought up the idea?
And that's hard to prove. Because how are you going to prove when someone had the idea? And even if you did prove it, that guy did come up with the idea first, should he get compensated for it if he didn't act on it?
Very true.
So it gets very, what's the word? I was going to say oblique. Very misty, foggy, speckled, confusing, daisy, hazy, crazy.
Hazy's a good word.
Yeah, on where that line should be drawn, if it should be drawn. And I would assume that in most court cases, that you would only get compensated for your idea if there's some kind of proof, some kind of documentation that yes, you are the sole creator of whatever idea, book, movie, play, business, etc. If you have something to prove it.
Mm-hmm. What if you can prove that you were like the original and sole like proprietor of an idea, but the person that took the idea and acted on it kind of made a lot better version of your original idea?
What if you can prove that?
I mean, you can prove that it was your idea, but what if whoever took it took your idea but just made it 10 times better?
Well, then
does it really matter? Or
I don't know. Have you made it? Have you started on it? Have you acted on it in any type of way? Or they just took it and created it and then even improved it? So I think it all just goes back to, do you have something? And I'm not saying this is how it should be, but in court, it would be, how can you prove that it was yours?
So like, I'm not sure if it's the greatest example, but it's the very first one that I can think about.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're the guy that invented the printer.
Mm-hmm.
It's already a made product. I mean, there's a bunch of different companies that make it, but you're the one that created the idea and then made the first printer. And over time, you started perfecting it. You now make printers that can print like digital photos and color and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm the guy that comes and takes your idea and now I capitalized on your idea and now I made the 3D printers. Is it stealing or was that inspiration?
I think at that point they would look at patents. If whoever made the printer had a patent on that printer, from what I understand about patents, you can't copy exactly whatever is patented, whatever they have in the patent. You can't copy that, so you can't copy the exact mechanics of the printer. And I think in the case of the 3D printer, I don't think that would be necessarily copying it, since you're changing things that are in the patent. It would be different. So, for example, when drug companies make some kind of pharmaceuticals, let's say there was a pill that took away bruises. You would eat a pill, you would swallow a pill, and then your bruises would go away in an hour. They would just disappear. That pill has a certain chemical structure, and if whoever made it patents that chemical structure, then you can't make that same pill. However, you can take that same structure in your lab and then start altering it. And if you start changing it, let's say you create your own version of that pill, and now that pill it's different enough where it does the same thing, but it does it less effectively. So it takes away bruises in 8 hours. Then it becomes then I think you can have a case as to, yes, it's different, but I think depending on if the person who made the 1 hour pill wants to sue, then it would be up to the court to decide, you know what, you can't do that, you got to pay him. Or they might say, you know what, it's different, so now there's no case here, they can't sue you. This one is yours. And often what those companies do, the one that makes the 1 hour pill, they're aware of this, so they make their own versions of the other ones. And they keep patenting, so they have that right. So now the other company that's trying to compete, they're trying to alter it as well, but they can't keep up with this big company because they're making their own and filing those patents.
from what I remember, or from what I remember, from what I know about the pharmaceutical companies, it's when they get the patents, it's like exclusive to them for a certain amount of time, and then after that, all these different companies can start producing their own, but as the generic brand. So that's why now you have like the Plan B pill was exclusive, and that's why it was super expensive, and now you can get the generic version for like 1/3 the price after, I think it was like after 10 years or something like that, and it's the exact same formula. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but it's different. The generic version isn't that one, it's a different version of it. But yeah, there's a certain time that they have. Same thing with music. I don't know if music has a time limit.
It's like 70 something years, isn't it?
Yeah. And then you can do whatever you want with that song. It's not free to the public. Same thing with pharmaceuticals. There's a certain time limit that they have that is exclusively theirs. But again, if you just alter it, you can make the generic version. It's really a different version of it. Well,
damn, Juice WRLD should have just waited a couple more years. I'm just kidding. How old is Phil Collins? He's not that old, huh?
Nah, he's old.
Was that 80s?
I think he was around in the 60s, 70s. I'm not too familiar with Phil Collins except for a couple songs.
I just know that one where he's singing about being in the middle of the night, where he sees that guy. We could have saved that one man from drowning or something like that.
Huh, you know what? I don't pay attention to the lyrics. That beat gets me too hype.
The only reason I know about it is because it's referenced in an Eminem song. And in that song, he talks about the reason why Phil Collins wrote that song was because he actually saw a man like leave somebody for dead in a lake or something like that.
They were drowning.
Yeah.
Huh.
So then I went and I found the Phil Collins song and I looked into it and all that, and apparently it's not true. He just was going through a divorce, and he was like in this like zone of just producing all these sad songs or something like that. But I guess
or it was true. But you see, here's where the story got it wrong. It wasn't that Phil Collins saw someone else drowning. It's that he saw himself drowning. And he couldn't save himself because of the divorce. So when he looked out and said, what should I do for this person? He said, you know what? I got to let him go. Because when he dies, I'm going to transform into something else. And I'm going to be motherfucking Phil Collins. Nah, I don't know if
that's such a better story too. But yeah, it's always crazy how we come around things like that.
Anyways, with that, sign us off.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate all the help and support. Thank y'all for the continued support. If you haven't already, subscribe, share this, tell one of your friends, tell your mama, your brother, your sister. Let them know. We come out with pretty good episodes every week. And we'll be back next week with another video. So thank you again. My name is Steven. This is Pedro. We're Two Mics and Some Theories. Peace.
Bye.